Hello investors, my name is Jerry Frank and I'm co-founder and CEO of Asset Rover. And today I'm here with Judy Stevens from Skogman Realty. And Judy Stevens has been in real estate since 1978. She served for 6 years on the Iowa Real Estate Commission, has been an instructor for the Iowa Association of Realtors and for Skogman Realty. And you do independent teaching of insurance classes, correct?
Yes, I do. And I have been a landlord. I think my husband and I probably have been landlords for about 48 years, but we just sold our last one this year.
Congratulations.
All of them in Iowa, one in Arizona.
All right.
So, yes.
All right. So when we first spoke, and we were talking about topics that we might want to talk about, you actually brought up the idea of talking about rental applications, and I was curious what brought that to the forefront of your mind as a topic.
The point, if you could only have everybody fill out one piece of paper, it would be the rental app. I think you can eliminate more headaches on the rental app than you can with a lease or your rules and regs or anything else. Because it is always said that a bad renter will put you out of the business, but a good renter will keep you in the business and keep the whole business fun. And so now's the time to eliminate that bad renter. It's on the rental app.
All right. So let's go through the rental application. What should you include? What kind of information should you collect?
Okay, the very first thing you should do is ask their name. And you should have this all in writing, and there's websites, also free websites that you can do your own application. I also talk about the Linn County landlords. They have an excellent rental app, but you have to join them. And I strongly recommend that you do that. But if you're making up your own, the very first thing that you want to do is get their name. And you also want to ask them if they have any aliases or have used another name during their time that they have lived here in Linn County. And you need to get this from every non-related party that is going to live on the premises. Okay. So you do that. In fact, if you have two people who are going to live together and they are not married, you want to get a rental app from each one of them. Okay? And after you do that, then you want to make sure you get a birth date, because that will sift out. For example, my name is Judy Stevens. I have a lot of interesting people who also are named Judy Stevens. And so you want to get the birth date. And you don't necessarily want to get the year, because some people are a little hesitant about doing that. The only time you really want to get the year, and you can explain this, if you see someone who's quite young and you want to make sure that they're 18 years of age so that they can sign a lease. If they're any younger than that, that lease would be voidable. So you want to get that.
So in that case, does the parent sign the lease for them if they're trying to?
Whatever your rules are.
Okay.
Whatever your rules are. Usually, I would usually get a co-signer, yes, and make sure they would be held responsible. Yes. Okay. Then you want to ask their present address. Where are they living now? And this is why you need to ask this of every person who is going to live in that premises. Where are they living now? Are they living together? Are they living apart? And this is especially true when someone is first living together. That can be a volatile situation. So anyway, then you also ask them their previous addresses. And you may want to go back at least 5, 7, 8 years and get all their previous addresses. And then you need to, this is something you can do yourself when you check out your rental app. The next thing you need to do is you need to get on the assessor site for Linn County or the city of Cedar Rapids and find out who actually owns that property. Because some people say, well, I own that, or my parents live there, or whatever. So you need to check it out and make sure, first of all, that there's really that address. So that's what you do. Next you ask who their current employer is and how much they make. And you can set your boundaries as to how much you expect them to have as income over and above what the rent is. People will tell you they're very used to being poor. Well, when you only have $50 a month left over after the rent, you're not used to being that poor. So you need to find out who their current employer is and how much money they make. You need to look at this also, and also you can ask them about other sources of income, because other sources of income are acceptable. For example, they might have some children who are on Social Security. You may have an elderly person who receives Social Security. You cannot discriminate on that. If they are getting child support, that's a source of income. You can also ask them if it is current, because you can be awarded child support, but you may not be getting it. Okay.
Right.
Then you also want to ask what type of vehicle they drive and how many vehicles will be on this property. Because if you got a single family dwelling especially, and you don't have a lot of parking, you need to know who's there. The other thing is if you're renting apartment houses, you may have people working on their cars out in the parking lot, and that's not acceptable. Okay, then again, you also ask them who will occupy the property, because now it's the time where they will put down dependents who are living there, children and so forth, and that's fine. But the most important thing also is you need to find out, are they living here year-round? Because what can happen, and happens a lot anymore in our society, is people will have custody of children over the summer, which is fine, but you may not have enough bedrooms for them. So that's what you need to ask also. Have you ever been convicted of, or have you ever been asked to move? Have you ever, that wasn't right. Have you ever been evicted or been asked to move? And this one you definitely want to check out, because this would appear on Iowa courts online. So you always look for evictions.
Okay.
And and the other thing that you want to put at the bottom of your rental app, you definitely need to say, any falsification of this document will result in termination of your lease. And on top of that, if they lie here and then you get on Iowa courts online and find out they've been evicted, we're not renting to you.
Right, right.
Okay. Have you ever broken a rental agreement? If so, why? Have them explain. Have you ever been convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor? And again, this is something you can check out on Iowa courts online. Okay. You also, the other question you also want to ask, and this is a little lengthy, so I didn't write it down. You want to ask if they have ever committed a crime which would put them on the sex offender list, which is a felony. And the other one is you want to ask them if they are currently using or have ever been convicted of using a controlled substance. And so those are good questions, especially since in Iowa, if you knowingly allow your tenant to use drugs on the property, they can confiscate your property. And so consequently, this then is an indication that you have tried to screen so that that would not happen. Right. So this looks good in court for you.
So in the event they put something on their rental application, they've lied, but you find out about it later?
After you rent it to them?
Correct.
If you have it in there that you can terminate the lease, but you must put that on your rental app.
Okay.
Okay? At the bottom of your rental app also, you want to, along with the falsification of the record, you get their permission to run a credit check, to do a criminal background check, and to verify anything on these rental apps. And you get their permission to do that. And that's what you do.
Have you ever had anyone who's declined that?
What?
Having any of those?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The best part about a rental app is that people will say, okay, I need to fill this out right away because I need a place to live. And you say, okay, have at it. Fill it out. And then they get to certain questions and they say, well, you know what, I need to get back to you. This is kind of lengthy. You know what, you just lost. You'll never see them again. But you know what? That is exactly why you did this.
Right.
A vacant apartment or house is 10 times better than a bad tenant. And so those are some of the things that I look for. Now on checking out this rental app, then here's the things that you do. Number one, you check the address to make sure that someone actually lives there and who it belongs to. When you ask for former, I'm assuming that you also will ask for the former landlord's name where they lived before. You can call those landlords. Again, some landlords are a little hesitant to give you a lot of information because for the Privacy Acts, but the one question that you can ask is, would you ever rent to them again? And that will tell you a lot.
Do you find that if that person is currently trying to leave their current resident, that the existing landlord is sometimes hesitant because maybe they do want that tenant to leave?
Yeah, and they may give you some bad information. That's why you check the previous ones. That's why you ask for the previous ones. And I learned a lot from a lady who was a very, very good landlord in Waterloo. And what was interesting is when she called for references, the first thing she asked, the first question out of her mouth was, how are you related to this person? And she screened a lot of people that way because people would just pop, oh, I'm her mother, I'm her sister, whatever. You go, oh, that's interesting. Right. And the other thing, then you start calculating that income. So sometimes if people are working in restaurants, the restaurants are famous for keeping all that less than 40 hours.
Right.
So they will say, well, I make so much an hour, but I work there 40 hours. Well, I really question that. And so you need to calculate. I know I had a tenant who was working all these jobs and she had just all kinds of income. So I called her and I said, when do you sleep? And she says, well, I just got that one job and I'm going to be quitting these other jobs, but she put it all on the rental app because she wanted this house I had. Well, you know what? I didn't rent to her because she was dishonest right there. So that's the other thing that you check. I absolutely always check Iowa courts online. There are also organizations here in Cedar Rapids who will do that for you. And of course, if you're right in Cedar Rapids with our new ordinances, you turn this all over to the police department and they do it for you for $8.
Oh,
So that is a bargain. And again, that's part of the ordinance that we have in Cedar Rapids, that you have to do this. Now, it does not mean that you do not rent to them. You can rent to them. If this guy's a registered sex offender, you can rent to him. But they want to know that you know
right.
who it is. So they're not telling you who to rent to and who not to rent to.
So if you get through the entire process, they filled out the paperwork, but you have a bad feeling. What do you do?
Don't rent to them. Because, now here's another thing I have done. Sometimes I have rented to 2 people in my career that were being evicted. They were being evicted. And I knew the landlord, and I just decided, you know, there's something going on here. So I honestly went over and visited the people and saw what the house looked like and everything, and I rented to both of them, and I had very good tenants.
Oh,
There was just and their references were excellent. I had one gal whose employer called me and he said, just give her a chance. Please give her a chance. He says she's talented and there's a lot of things going on in her life and she has to get out of this unit. So I went over and visited her. She's sitting there on boxes. She's going to get evicted the next 2 days. And she had children and we rented to her and we had a good tenant. So it happens.
yeah.
So you'd have to kind of, and it doesn't hurt either it doesn't hurt to visit them and see what their houses look like and what's going on. So,
Is there anything that we've missed in this conversation, or additional advice that you'd give to someone who's just going into the landlording business and figuring it out for the first time?
get a rental app and use it. And it's not discriminatory. You have to just make sure that you use it with everybody. Ask all the same questions. Oh, the other one that I might add that I've always used, and I also ask who to contact in case of emergency. And I have worked with investors, and I know I had an investor who told me that he found a woman passed in his apartment, 28 years old. And he said he had no idea how to get a hold of family, anybody. And since then, he always asked who to contact because he said there was some mother here in Iowa who would rather had him call than had the highway patrol come find her. So that's a good one. That's also kind of been funny because that's kind of a good screening question, because I've had people say, well, like if I put my mother down, when will you call her? In case of emergency. Oh, well, like parties or something, will you call her? No. So that's kind of an indicator. That's always been a good screener. But the questions that have been the best screeners for me is income and emergency, and have you used a controlled substance? Those are really good screeners because you can just see them when they get to those. They'll decide they don't want to fill out the app. You do not have to take the app immediately. You say you've got to do your checking. And again, in all fairness, and you want your unit rented, so you do it as quickly as possible.
Right.
And then you get back to them. If you do turn them down for credit, the laws now say that you've got to put it in writing, and you have got to let them see the entire record.
Okay.
And again, you have to remember also, I rented a house in Phoenix, Arizona for 13 years, and I was told by my manager down there that if you're looking for somebody with good credit after the big crash in Arizona, you're never going to find a tenant. So yeah, everybody has their story.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we do.
Okay.
Or did. We don't do it anymore.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for asking me.